Okay.
Yeah, because I'm just recovering from a strike.
Okay. Hey, Shalom Akim.
Shalom.
Shim Yahushai Brakatham.
Yeah, Bashim Ashar.
Wada Yahweh Shim Yahushai. We're here with another edition. Was trying to start earlier, but was having technical difficulties. But I worked through it, persevered through it, and now we're here. Wanted to go into, you see the title, Deuteronomy the 28th chapter the right way, because you got these devils, coming at us with this garbage about, look, Deuteronomy 28, it ain't talking about you guys going into slavery on ships and this and that, and coming with all kind of BS. See, Deuteronomy the 28th chapter, like, for instance, like the book of Daniel's, how it goes into different time periods and when different things was happening to us. Deuteronomy the 28th chapter is the same thing. Deuteronomy the 28th chapter is talking about when we first went into captivity and how it was a reoccurring.
Shalom. Y'all Shalom Shai Brakathon to my dear brothers.
Who's that? What was that?
Slaggy, that's on my end. A video started playing. Slaggy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so basically, we just gonna go into it, and some of the things that this devil no cap Mahone was speaking about. Basically, he's just being a devil. He's just basically being the devil, which that's what the so-called white man is. He's the devil. Can I get we read 2 Corinthians 2:11? We'll start there and then we'll go into it. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
I got some for you too.
Yeah.
2 Corinthians
2:11. Because we in this day and time, and the prophecies are speaking, the prophecies are walking down the street, the prophecies are roaming all through the entire earth right now. The things written in this Bible is popping like Jiffy popcorn every day. It's popping. But yet, you still got Jake out there playing around. And of course, the scriptures say the devil shall come down with great wrath because he knoweth that he have but a short time. So of course they got their spin doctors out there working, sitting here to try to offset the word of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, but that's not going to work. But you got something, brother?
Yeah, I got 2 Corinthians for you.
Yep.
I got something else. 2 Corinthians 2:11. It says, "Least Satan should get an advantage of us."
Right. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You can finish it out.
For we are not ignorant of his devices.
Right. So unless Satan should try to get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. For years, we've been hitting them hard body with this, and they've been getting destroyed. But now they're mounting, how would you say, this last weak attempt to try to debunk the word of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai and try to make it seem like everything in the Bible is geared towards these dirty, disgusting, nasty so-called white people. The small hats. Because this guy, No Cap Mahone, he's a small hat. All right. He's one of them damn small hats, and they recruited him. And he's definitely one of them. He's definitely one of them Jesuit priests. He's one of them. He's one of them devils that's up in there, and they sent them out. He's one of their fuck boys that they sent out there, that they put out there. Is there more on that?
On 2 Corinthians 2:11, that's it.
Right. You said you had something?
Yeah, because going what you said earlier, that you got a lot of F-tards out there trying to put disinformation out to disprove the scriptures.
Exactly.
But one thing they can't disapprove, and what makes the scriptures speak for themselves, are the prophecies.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's
Isaiah 30. Isaiah 34:16. It says, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord, and read."
That's right.
"No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. For my mouth it had commanded, and his spirit it had gathered them."
Right.
So
none shall want her mate. Go ahead.
Yeah. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord. That's of course the scriptures, right?
That's right.
Because the scriptures speak for themselves. The scriptures don't need any other book or anything else to validate what the scriptures say. Now, when you're gathering evidence, right, to prove something, you have something that's called like a substantial evidence.
Right.
Right. That's just something that you add to the proof you already got. So you might go here and there to kind of add to validate, help add to the evidence. But the scriptures are enough evidence because it has something that no other book on the planet has, which are prophecies. And the prophecies speak, what this whole Deuteronomy 28, that's prophecy. And you can't debunk it. I mean, you could try, but you can't debunk it when you get down to the technicals because there's only the prophecies are prophecies.
Right.
It went the way exactly how it was written in the scriptures,
Yeah.
So it says, and no one of these shall fail. Going into the prophecies, none of the prophecies shall fail. None shall want her mate, meaning there's no other book that you can match up with the scriptures. Because they got a Book of the Dead, they got the third book of John, and all this stuff that don't match up with the scriptures.
Exactly.
But what that is they have information and they got disinformation, right?
Right.
So what they do is somebody that's down the path of truth, they'll give them a sprinkle of truth, but they'll mix it in with lies to kind of throw you off the path without breadcrumbs. Yeah, they'll breadcrumb it so that so they lead you off the path of truth. Okay. Right. And they have guys like, this is where you have guys like these so-called whistleblowers like Alex Jones and all these different guys.
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell you some truth, right? But then they'll throw lies in there, and at the same time, they're creating lists for the least to know, okay, who's the people out there is really trying to get the truth. All right. They're all looking after this channel and that channel. Like these guys everything's all set up. Right. Yep. So it says, none shall want her mate, for my mouth that had commanded, and the spirit had gathered them. And that's talking about the prophecies. That's talking about the prophets, right? Because each prophet they were given a certain lot. The book of Obadiah, John, book of Peter's, right? So the Most High commanded that. So everything that was written by these men in the scriptures, because they like to say, "Oh, man wrote it," right? Well, it was the Most High's mouth that commanded them to write what they wrote. So that's it.
Yeah. So without further ado, we're gonna hit Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And the first place where I want to start is 28 and 36. I just want to start there, Deuteronomy 28 and 36. And let me see if I can get it up here on the screen. If I can.
36.
Yeah, right there. They might be able to say, they might not. It says,
you can see it.
The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there thou shalt serve other gods of wood and stone. Right? So what he's trying to say is, us saying Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, is talking about us coming into slavery. Who was the king? Who was the king that came over here with us to the Americas? Right? And we always refer to Masha. Masha is King David. The Lord said, I shall bring thee and thy king. Now, the first time that this ever happened to us, where there was a king that was brought in, a Judite king that was brought into slavery into another kingdom, happened with King Zedekiah under the time of Nebuchadnezzar II's reign. As a matter of fact, let's get Second Kings 25 verses 1 to 6. Right? We get 2 Kings verses 25, chapter 25 verses 1 to 6. Now, the very first king of Israel that was bound and brought into captivity and we were subjugated was during the time of the Babylonian Empire, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. The kingdom of Israel had already been subjugated by the Assyrians before Judah went into captivity under the Babylonians. So the first time that an Israelite king was actually subdued, this is after Solomon. So let's read that in 2 Kings 25. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. It says 2 Kings 25 and 1. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his hosts, against Jerusalem and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about.
Right.
And
So they pitched against the city of Jerusalem because Jerusalem is a walled city. Jerusalem had walls around it and it had a gate. So what they did was they sieged the city from the outside and they pitched a tent against it. Now this happened between 589 BC to 587 BC. Historically, what most scholars say, it was like an 18-month siege where Jerusalem was sieged. The king at the time was Zedekiah. Go ahead, read on.
Verse 2. And the city was besieged until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. Verse 3. And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land.
Right. So, because when the city being walled off like that, of course you would leave out the city to go and gather things, whether you were going hunting. Of course, in the city, you had certain animals and things inside the city, but you had to leave the city to go out and get provisions from other places and bring it back into the city to re-up. You had to go out and re-up. Whether you were going to pick certain fruits, vegetables, different things like that, hunting for different animals, you were going to get figs and different things like that. You had to go out and get things, gather things, and bring it back into the city. So they just pitched outside the city and waited, and they wouldn't let nobody out. And they waited until all the food supplies ran out, until Jake started to starve. Then they made their move, but they waited first. Go ahead.
It's like verse 4. It says, verse 3. And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land. And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between two walls, which is by the king's garden. Now the Chaldees were against the city round about, and the king went the way toward the plain. And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army were scattered from him.
Right. And all his army was scattered from him. Now, another point, it said that by night the men of war fled, and that the Babylonians were up against the walls of the city. They were waiting. So that's why in the book of when David said, "Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, even to the foundation thereof." When David spoke about that, and he said, "Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom," because that was the day of Jerusalem. And that's when that happened. And that's when the first time an Israelite king, was captured by a heathen nation and put into captivity. And they did Zedekiah dirty. Go ahead, read on.
Yep. It says, and the armies of verse 5, excuse me, and the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army were scattered from him. So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him. And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes.
Right, they killed Zedekiah's sons right before his face. Go ahead.
And put out the eyes of Zedekiah.
Right, so they killed his sons before his face, and so the last thing he seen was his sons died in front of him, and then they plucked his eyes out. They gouged his eyes out. So the last image he saw was his sons dying. Then they took his eyes away plucked his eyes out. Go ahead.
And bound him with fetters of brass and carried him to Babylon.
And they bound him with fetters of brass, and they carried him to Babylon. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, a servant of the king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem. And he burnt the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every great man's house burnt he with fire. Verse 10. And all the army.
That's pretty much all we needed right there, just to show that the first time that happened was during the time of the beginning of the Babylonian captivity. Now, coming over here to the Americas, number one, we lost our identity. And the scriptures speak about that we were going to lose our identity. So when we came over here to the Americas, you know, that first batch that came over here, of course they knew that there were those among them that knew that they were Israelites. But then what do? It's a thing called gradualism. Jake was getting the hell beat out of him. Basically, the Hebrew Israelite got beat out of us. And then the children that were coming up, when the elders died off, there was nobody to what? Pass down the history. Because the elders died off. So then it's just like what they're doing now. We came up in a generation where you had respect, where you had respect for the word of the Lord. You respected an old lady. You respected an old man. You weren't disrespectful to your elders or your parents. Now this generation, right, which is a generation or two away from us now, how are they? They got no respect for their mother, no respect for their father, no respect for their grandmother, grandfather. As the generations go, they lose something. Now this generation is all LGBTified. Our generation wasn't. When we were kids, man, you know, them things, they stayed away. They stayed in the closet because they knew what the hell was going to happen to them if they got seen. Yeah. They hid it. They stayed away. They weren't out there in the front flamboyant with it. But now this generation that's coming up right now, they're all straight up LGBTQified. And that's what happened to us during slavery. As the years went on, the elders died off, so it couldn't be passed down. So we discontinued from our heritage that the Lord gave us. You can read that in Jeremiah. Thou shalt discontinue from the heritage that I gave thee. I believe is that Jeremiah 17:4, Jeremiah 17:5?
Yeah, 17:4 or maybe 9. You want me to get it?
Yeah. And then with you reading that, you know what these devils will try to say? See, that was talking about during Jeremiah's time. See, I was talking about then. First of all, you damn demented retards. I'll let you read the scripture first.
All right, this is Jeremiah 17:4. It says, "And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever."
Right. So now, when we went into Babylon and the Babylonian captivity, because Jeremiah is dealing with the time of the Babylonian captivity, did we discontinue from our heritage? We still knew that we were Israelites. So we still knew of our heritage, but the Babylonians had what? Subjugated us. But even in the Babylonian captivity, we still knew that we were Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, because Ephraim, Simeon, Manasseh, Issachar, Naphtali, Asher, Gad, Issachar, they were in the Assyrian captivity. And by this time, by 589 to 587 BC, when Nebuchadnezzar II sieged Jerusalem, they was already here in the Americas at that time. Okay. Because in around 724 BC is when they left to come over here to the Americas. So you're talking 100 and some odd years later, when the Babylonians brought down the kingdom of Judah, the kingdom of Israel was already here on this side of the world at that time. Mm-hmm. So discontinuing from our heritage, oh yeah, because we weren't able to what? We weren't able to do the daily sacrifice no more. That was our heritage. We weren't able to keep the law no more. That was part of our heritage. But we still knew that we were Israelites. Judah still knew he was Judah. Benjamin knew he was Benjamin. And Levi knew that they were Levi and they were the priests. But we couldn't practice it while we were there in Babylon.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, think about Daniel. Daniel, King Nebuchadnezzar, he knew he was an Israelite. Mm-hmm. And he even kept the dietary law. Why do you think he ate pulse? He didn't eat the king's meat.
That's right. So Daniel didn't eat the king's meat. So these cocksuckers will sit there and try to say, see, that's only talking about in Babylon. That ain't talking about here in America. Oh, yes, it is. Because we totally lost our heritage coming over here. Because we weren't sacrificing. We weren't keeping the Sabbath. We weren't keeping the Passover. We weren't keeping the first fruits. We weren't keeping no holidays over here in the Americas. Nothing in the Bible. We weren't keeping nothing.
Yep.
So we lost our heritage when we came over here to the Americas. But all over there in that time in the ancient world, we still knew that we were Israelites. The Assyrian captivity, we still knew we were Israelites. The Babylonian captivity, which we're talking about right now, we still knew our identity that we were Israelites. After the Babylonian captivity, under King Cyrus, under the Persians, Cyrus allowed the exiles in Babylon to go back into Jerusalem and rebuild the temple that Nebuchadnezzar and them destroyed, which was the first temple. And they rebuilt it. They built the second temple. But we still knew we were Israelites, even though we was carried off into captivity, right? Go ahead, brother.
Yep. I got Hosea 1:10 real quick. It says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in a place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, which is here in America,
right?
Modern day times, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power.
Because it wasn't said that ye are not my people in Assyria, in Babylon, in Persia, in the Greek Empire. We knew well that we were Israelites, and then when Alexander first came into Jerusalem, Alexander he made a deal with the high priest Jaddua that Israel didn't have to pay tribute to Alexander the Greek, because Alexander the Greek seen Jaddua and all the priests that was with him in a dream that the Most High sent him. When he came into, it's in the Josephus, it's going to be too much reading, so I'm not going to go into the Josephus, but I'm going to make mention of it. It tells you in there when Alexander came into the city that he saluted the high priest. The priest saluted him. They showed him the name Yahweh. He saluted the name Yahweh. They showed him how to make a proper sacrifice in the temple, and he did. And then he sat down and had a conversation with the high priest Jaddua and asked Jaddua, what favors do you need of me? So really, the bullshit with the Greek Empire started after the death of Alexander, and that's chronicled in First Maccabees, the first chapter. The shit really hit the fan after the death of Alexander the Greek is when all the craziness started, when it came to him. But we still knew we were Israelites.
Even in the Roman Empire a lot.
Even in the Roman Empire, we still knew that we were Israelites.
Is really after slavery. Is even in after the Roman Empire, when we're in the West Africa and scattered to different parts, even here in Americas, that's the 12 tells you that in Apocrypha. The northern tribe, they left and came here to the Americas so they could follow the law, statutes, commandments, and when
which they never was able to keep in their own land.
Yeah, exactly. But when the Spaniards got over there, right, and we read accounts all the time, they noted how these men had to be the lost Israelites.
Right.
So even up to then, we knew we were Israelites. So that's bullshit.
Right.
When they try to pass off as far as Jeremiah 17.